everyone, welcome to another video for SimonsStamp.com. Today I'm going to be making another holiday card, and I'm using this embossing folder from Nellie Snellen. This is a scene, and it's called Snowman Scene. Nellie Snellen has a few of these embossing folders out right now that create a whole scene on your cardstock. They're really fun to work with. Thought I'd do something a little bit different today with some coloring and things like that on top of some dark cardstock. This cardstock color is Whirly Pop from Basil. It's from their card shop collection. So it's a good, really thick cardstock, perfect for this embossing. While I have my big shot out for some die cutting, I thought it'd be fun to add some snowflakes for this card. So I'm using the mini snowflake set from Tim Holtz. I'm just cutting the snowflakes out of some Nina Solar White cardstock. And then when I'm done cutting them, I'm going to set them aside while I work on the embossed piece. I'm using Tim Holtz Distress Stain in Picket Fence. And I'm using this particular distress stain because I really wanted to tone down the dark blue of the embossed scene and allow me a really good surface for coloring. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and run this distress stain over the embossed piece. I turned it over so that it's debossed or recessed, and that makes it so that as I run the stain over the cardstock, the areas that are pressed in still remain that dark blue, but the areas that are sticking out are covered in the white streaks of the distress stain. It just gives it a really nice look, and it also sort of makes it look like a night scene. I thought it'd be kind of fun to make it look a little bit like nighttime, and using the dark blue with the white stain over the top gives it that really toned back muted effect. I also did that on purpose because I was going to be coloring on top with colored pencils, and it would need some contrast for the colors to show up. That dark blue is very, very dark, and I knew that trying to color on top of it, it would just wash out all the colors. So adding that white distress stain on top really lets the colors pop and gives it a really good punch. I'm speeding up the film here, or the video footage, so that we can get this moving a little bit faster. I used two different colors of colored pencils on the scarf, and I'm moving on to other areas. I'm using Prismacolor colored pencils. These are really high quality artist colored pencils. I'd recommend them. But you can use practically any type of colored pencil on this because that white distress stain gives a really good surface for coloring. So I colored quite a few areas of this embossed scene that I didn't actually need to. Looking back, hindsight is 2020, I would have actually cut out what I needed first and then colored it. But that's totally okay. I'm actually going to be cutting out just the area around the snowman with a circle die, and pretty much just the tree and the house in the background and the snowman are going to be showing. But by coloring the rest of the scene, you can see what you could do if you left a larger panel. I think it'd be really fun to, instead of use a circle like you're going to see here in a minute, instead of using that, if you used just the whole panel or cut it to be a long, short panel on your card, I think that would be really, really pretty. So I'm bringing in a white colored pencil. Now, white colored pencil, I've always wondered, what is that for? But it's for cases like this, and you're going to be coloring on top of color that's already applied or on top of some dark paper. I thought it just gave it some really nice texture. It gives it sort of a little bit of it's not a smooth texture like snow would be, but a really hand-drawn, sketchy texture. Really fun, and I love that it adds a little bit more white over that distress stain and really highlights the area of the snow scene to make it look a little bit more vibrant and lifelike. Finishing up the coloring of the rest of the scene here, adding more white to the area at the bottom. Again, this part will actually be cut off, but that's okay. I figured it'd be good to fill it in. I also took a dark navy pencil and just colored the sky just a little bit to give a little more contrast right at that horizon line. So now we're going to switch back to regular time here, and I'm going to show you how I cut it out with the circle die cut. I'm using a circle die cut from Sizzix. This is just one of their circle framelit sets, and I'm centering it on the scene and then using a little bit of washi tape to hold that on there so it's not going to be sliding around while it goes through the Big Shot die cutting machine. I'll just crank that through. I'm using just both tabs down, clear plate, paper, die, and then clear plate for a nice clean cut. And you'll see how well that cuts it out over here. And I love using a little bit of washi tape to keep everything in place. So there's the circle. Now I'm going to score some white cardstock. This is actually Basil Card Shop cardstock. This is in the color Marshmallow. And I love it because it's thick, but it's not too thick. I cut another piece of that same cardstock and I'm embossing it using the Swiss Dots embossing folder from Cuttlebug and Provocraft. I wanted just a little bit of a subtle dot on the back of the card. Cut that down just a little bit so that it could kind of mat and nestle in on the front of the card. And I adhered that and put it straight down onto the card. So here are those two snowflakes. I'm going to be coating them with Rock Candy Clear Distress Stickles. And I thought I might color them on top of this blue cardstock, but then I decided it'd be better to adhere everything to the card first and then start applying the Rock Candy Stickles. So I used some foam mounts on the back of the circle. I made sure that I put it around like all four corners, kind of, because the circle doesn't have corners, but all 4 points, and then in the center as well. Because this was embossed and then the stain was put on top, so the cardstock got a little bit wet. It was bowing up and just curving a little bit, so I needed to have some foam adhesive pretty much all over the back of the circle to make sure that it laid flat against the card. So I put some little bits of foam adhesive on the back of the snowflakes. And I'm going to be applying some rock candy stickles. Now, you don't really need water to make this work, but in order to save your brush, you're going to want to put it in some water right after you're done. So that's why I have some water out on my desk here. And what I'm doing is I'm picking up the stickles and I'm pouncing it on top of these snowflakes. I got this tip from some crafting friends that they have the best results when they apply this rock candy stickles with a brush and kind of pounce it on, because it applies just a little bit more and it dries to more of a sugared texture. It's really fun to add to white because it really looks like it's almost like sugar on top of a sugar cookie. On this second snowflake, I noticed that it was transferring some of the blue dye from the cardstock onto the snowflake. It's hard to see here, but you'll see it in the final picture more than, when I was applying the stickles. But that bottom snowflake, because the stickles stayed on that black or on the blue cardstock a little bit more, that snowflake just has a slight blue tint to it. I was going to redo it, but then I thought, you know what, this looks kind of cool. I'm going to leave it. It has that same blue texture, or the same blue color. So I took a black marker and I colored in some areas on the snowman. I wanted his buttons and his face to really stand out. And then I took a white gel pen and went around the outside edge of the circle. That just really finishes off the edges. And then I applied a rhinestone and a pearl to the center of the snowflakes. And that pretty much finishes the card. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope it gives you some ideas on what you can do with an embossing folder that has a scene on it like this. And I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching.